Good evening, everybody, or good night, as it is in my Minecraft world, but today it's time for another episode of Minecraft Science. Today, I want to talk to you about the difference between a theory and a hypothesis. Alright, so what is the difference between a theory and a hypothesis? Because people in regular language tend to use them interchangeably, and scientifically they're not. So when people are telling you, oh, it's just a theory, they have no idea what they're talking about, okay? So let's start with the hypothesis. The hypothesis is a guess. It's something in science that you are testing, okay? A theory is something that has been tested repeatedly and has had very few situations where we can actually say it's wrong. And in fact, the situations are so minor, and it's been tested so often that we have to accept it as true. Now, famous theories include the theory of relativity, the theory of evolution, the theory of gravity. So unless you're saying to me that you don't think gravity exists, then you can't say that you understand the difference between a theory and a hypothesis. Right, so let's start at the very beginning, which is a very good place to start, I'll have you know. As a scientist, you've got an idea, okay? It's something that you've been thinking about for a while. You think you understand what it would take to actually prove this theory right. Now, as a scientist, you have to come up with two ideas. You have to come up with a hypothesis and a null hypothesis. Now, in science, a hypothesis is all sheep are black. Now, a null hypothesis would be all sheep are not black, which is a lot easier to prove because you only have to find, you know, one white sheep in order to prove it. So, all sheep are black, all sheep are not black. Now, then you go into the testing phase, and I am being incredibly simplified. Testing. Now, testing can go either one or two ways. Scientists like the testing bit. It's the bit where they get to play with things that explode often. So we test for quite a while, and we test as many different ways of doing this as you possibly can. Now, the results come out one of two ways. Either all sheep are black, or not all sheep are black. That should probably be my hypothesis, my null hypothesis. So either all sheep are black, or not all sheep are black. Now, no matter what happens, if you cannot accept your hypothesis with your sheep being all black, you have to by default accept your null hypothesis. Okay? So, if you can't prove your hypothesis is true, you have to accept it's not true. And that goes with anything in science. Either it's true or it's... Either we have to accept it as true until we falsify it, until we prove it's wrong, or we have to accept it's not true until we prove it's wrong. So there's a level of we have to prove things are wrong, because if we can't prove things are wrong, then they are by default correct. So either something exists or it doesn't exist. Yeah, either we prove something exists or it's not true, or it doesn't exist. Right, now, no matter what, your results can and often be. Often, if they're proved to be wrong, you throw them out. Sometimes people will go back and think of something you didn't think of, and they'll retest it and they'll think it down. Then what you have to go to do, no matter what you accept, you have to go through peer review. Now, peer reviews are comprised of a load of scientists that are arseholes. They are completely knowledgeable, but they're out to prove you wrong. They're out to prove that whatever statement you made, you are a know-nothing dickhead, and you know nothing, and they're right, and you're wrong, and it's what science is about. It's a giant game of bullshit, yeah? So, we have our hypothesis, and we have to go through this testing phase again. Now, if they cannot prove it's true, if they cannot replicate what you have done before, okay, you go into this box. It's bullshit, yeah? You're lying to us, yeah? If you cannot prove, if your results have been falsified in any way, if you've made them not true, we don't care. You're lying to us. It goes into the bullshit box, okay? If I cannot repeat what you've done, if it only works when you do it magically, bullshit, okay? Now, if it's true, you go along this line where it's, okay, we've accepted that as true, so we've accepted our hypothesis. Okay, let's test it again. Let's test it in a different way. Okay, that accepts, testing it again, and it would help if I could, ooh, there goes my thing. Test it again, and going around and around in a giant loop until scientists are all sick and tired of, yeah, it's true. We cannot prove this wrong. Okay, after that, some people might go, hang on, this little thing that I'm studying seems to fit in here. So let's add that to your theory. Sorry, your hypothesis. And then we'll test it. And then we'll test it again. And then every time, each little bit, that little bit has to be tested. And then sometimes it might shove itself onto the theory as a little addition. And sometimes these little things become so numerous, they actually form a whole collection of ideas that cannot be proved wrong. And then you get a theory. After it's not been proved wrong for a long, long time, you get this theory. Theories are the most true bits of science. They're the things that have been tested repeatedly and have not legitimately been proven false. Okay? So, that's not all. Theories have and often are forced to go under this cycle of testing repeatedly again and again and again. Okay, once you get here, it's not plain sailing. You have to prove that you're right. You have to stay there and you have to remain solid. Because if you're wrong, you go back to this bullshit box. If you are proved false, and when I say proved false, I don't mean, haha, I've destroyed one tiny little bit, therefore the rest of you must fall like a house of cards. Doesn't work like that. You've proved that one bit false. Until you can prove everything in that theory false, we have to accept it as true. Yeah? That's what falsification is. Falsification is the most important part of science, trying to prove things wrong. And the bigger the theory you debunk, the bigger the theory that you prove wrong, the more prestige you get. It's the only way to keep scientists honest. Yeah? If you prove something big is completely false, you get kudos for that. So some famous things that have been proved false, the phlogiston theory. I would suggest you go look that one up. It's the idea of that everything is made of this phlogiston stuff, and when you burn it, phlogiston is released. That's bollocks. And more testing actually proved it was bollocks. Yeah? So the important things are falsification. Loads of people were able to say, nah, that's not true. Another one is Fleischmann and Pons cold fusion. Now they did this bit, and they found that they could create extra electricity using water and heavy metals, and they made extra energy. And they called this process cold fusion because it was cold, and regular fusion happens in the sun. Okay, that's what makes the sun hot, fusion. Logically, they got to this bit, this peer review bit, and none of their results were repeatable. Nobody could actually find any way, shape or form where they could actually repeat what they'd done, the experiments that they'd done. They did it perfectly. They all across the world, different people did it. And basically they were laughed out of the scientific community because they got called, because it got called as bullshit, because it was not repeatable. Okay? It only, if you can only repeat it within your own room, it's not science. It's something you've not considered that's going on in your room. Yeah? So, the difference between an hypothesis, if we're being correct, and a theory. Hypothesis is an estimate, a guess, what we think might be going on. A theory is the most true bits of science, the bits that have been tested again and again and again. Okay? You need to know, if you're going to try and bullshit a scientist, you need to know the difference between the two of those. So, difference between theory and hypothesis, important. And if I ever hear you saying, oh, it's just a theory, I will smack the living shit out of you. Theories are true. Or the most true bits that we have of science. They're the bits that have not been proved false. Okay? So, this is Cleo, signing off of another Minecraft Science, and I will catch you all later.